Hello, welcome again to Benchwarmers. Hanging out this week with Jason and Andera and talking South Dakota High School sports. Jandy, how's your summer?
It's been great. Been getting a little bit of sun. I'm not coaching softball for the first time in 15 years. It just opens up a whole new world, Tom.
Playing a lot of golf?
As much as I can.
Football gets started in South Dakota in 5 weeks. Are we ready for this? It's coming sooner than we think it is. Volleyball will get started a little bit after that, the week of August 23rd, but it's almost go time, and you've been studying a little football already to get going, right?
Yeah, July is kind of the time where it's go time, and I get out and see as many teams and coaches and players as possible. Recruiting season really picks up as the verbals start coming in at this time of the year, so a lot of fun all year following high school football, but it really cranks up here in the next couple weeks.
And we love to see South Dakota high school kids go on and play at South Dakota colleges and universities. There was one big move this summer in basketball. Connor Libis, one of the all-time great scorers in South Dakota, was at Del St. Mary's. He had already spent a season at Briar Cliff, and he is going to go now to Northern State University.
Yeah, that'll be a challenge for Connor to step up and play some competitive D2, but every challenge he's run into, he has come past with flying colors. He can negate his size, neutralize his size by his shot, because he can take a step back and get any kind of shot he wants off. So he'll be a lot of fun to watch, a 2,000-point scorer at the high school level. Yeah. He can really knock it down.
Third leading scorer all time in the state behind Louis Krogman, Don Jacobson, and then Connor Libis is number 3. So he goes to Northern State to join the Wolves up there. Matthew Moores is top 5 all-time in scoring on the South Dakota list. And South Dakota State, University of South Dakota, always get the good gets, as we say, from in-state kids going to join the Jackrabbits and the Coyotes. And Kalen Gary is one from DeSmet, who had a fantastic high school career there, and he goes to join the Jackrabbits.
Yeah, when he was between his sophomore and junior year, I thought he'd maybe get a few D1 notices, and he never did. And then finally during his senior year, he had a couple breakout performances, and then the D1 offers started coming, and I think people realized he's the kind of guy that can just make plays. And then Matthew Moores, for the last 6-7 years, we just assumed he was going to be a Big Ten or some big-time college, and then to have the treat to say he's coming back to South Dakota and play around here, it's going to be a lot of fun to see how he fits into a Jackrabbit roster.
1 year at Wisconsin, and then he goes to join the Jacks this year. So you got Gary and Moores there. But there are some other names that aren't there yet, but kids making commitments, South Dakota high school kids that have made commitments to the Coyotes and to the Jackrabbits. Who are some that we might not have heard of yet, really?
Yeah, well, the class of 2023 has 2 big name stars. Isaac Bruns heading to USD from Dakota Valley, a state champion last year. And then Joe Saylor, he's been celebrated for the last couple years out of White River. Fantastic high school player, and he reminds me a lot of what Kalen Gary does for at the high school level. He can just do a little bit of everything. He's going to SDSU, so that's on the boys' side. But the real recruiting war is at the girls' side, because there's so many talented female players in high school, and SDSU has really done a nice job of getting commits from not only the 23s but the 24s. They already have 4 players from that class of 24 who have verbal to SDSU. But look at USD. They got a new coaching staff, and they've already got 2 commits, Avery Broughton and Olivia Kiefer, that are coming their way too. So a lot of great in-state talent taking that next step. And even if you go out to the 25s and the 26s, there are players that are getting offers already from in-state colleges.
All right, we will talk about a couple other high-profile kids, Lincoln Keenholz, Bergen Riley here in a little bit. There's one young man that we've been following for a while, and I know you've talked to him quite a bit, Griffin Lockwood Powell, in baseball. He went to Lincoln High School, was at Central Michigan University, and he's now in the Dodgers organization, and he's with their Class A team. It's Rancho Cucamonga. They're in the California League. He homered in his first at-bat with that squad. He's got 3 home runs. They've only played about 9 games, or he has only played about 9 games with them so far, but 3 home runs in 9 games, 8 RBI, a kid that can really, really hit the ball.
Yeah, I was just talking to some people from around the South Dakota High School Baseball Association and talking about some of the best players they've seen, and they always mention Griffin Lockwood Powell. He hit over 500 as a high school player. He was a defensive great at catcher all the way up through his days at Central Michigan, but now they really see him as a hitter, and he is showing what he can do with the bat in the Dodgers organization. It's time for him to really keep an eye on how he does over the next year or two if he gets a chance to maybe even play at the big league level.
Yeah, Class A right now. They've got another higher Class A squad, and then they can move up through the Dodge organization. But just the big frame and has always been.
And he works. He works really hard, and he is committed to his craft.
In the Dodgers organization, Griffin, Lockwood, Powell. All right, when we come back, the latest on two of the best ever, really in their sports ever in South Dakota High School. One in volleyball at Sioux Falls O'Gorman, and one in football at Pierre High School.
Thanks for watching Benchwarmers, presented by Andera Orthopedics.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers here in the middle of July, talking high school sports with Jason and Andera from Midco Sports. And let's talk about two of the most celebrated high school athletes we can think of, really, in the last decade. That's not going too far.
That's not too far. And it seems like we say that all the time, but the talent is getting better, I think.
Bergen Riley will be a senior this year at Sioux Falls O'Gorman, one of the most national attention of any South Dakota high school volleyball player ever, right?
Exactly. She has made the U.S. national training team. Last year played in the U18 World Championships for Team USA and made a big impact in those. And right now she's training with the U19 team at Tulsa, trying to make the top 12. She's in the top 20 right now in that age group of the 19U. Look at this great dig that she has and turns it into a set. But she is like elite, top in the country, one of the top in the world setters. I mean, that would be, can you imagine if we had like a recruit going to be the quarterback at Alabama? That's what she's doing. Yeah. She's the setter, highly recruited player going to Nebraska, and right now playing for a chance to be on that Pan Am team to play in the Pan Am Cup later this month against some international competition in Tulsa. So I'm really looking forward to seeing her senior season, but not only her senior season, but what she does on the international level.
And she'd just come back from playing for that national team, and we had done a O'Gorman volleyball match right when she had come back, and they weren't sure if they were going to use her as a setter or if she would just be a hitter. But she's not 6'3" like some players we've seen come out of the state. She doesn't jump this high or anything like that, but just supremely skilled at every aspect of the game, right?
She knows the game so well, and she can fit into any team because she has so many different skills. Just alone in South Dakota, she could be the best attacker we have in South Dakota, but she's a setter by trade, and it just makes her so valuable to a team like O'Gorman that was so young last year, and now O'Gorman's, they made a run into the state tournament. They were the favorites, but they were down 2-0 to Washington, and they found a way to win the state tournament. But she is just such a phenomenal player and has all of the intangibles and all of the athleticism.
And we'll go to the University of Nebraska, as you said, which is a high-profile national program. They were the national runner-up last year to Wisconsin, so she goes and joins a really high-profile program for her college playing days, and, of course, has another season at O'Gorman, Bergen Riley. All right, another young person, Jandy, that you have followed quite a bit. You were just out in Pierre talking to Lincoln Keenholz, who's going into his senior season at Pierre as their quarterback this year, but he will end up going to the University of Washington and join South Dakota football legend Kalen DeBoer, who is the head coach there now after being at Fresno State. DeBoer there in his first season, but who was in the Final Four? It came down to who for Lincoln Keenholz as far as where he was going to go.
Yeah, he wanted to get some more recognition, throughout the nation, and that's what his aim was to do this last summer. And boy, did he! He got offer after offer, and they started piling up. I think over a dozen FBS offers by the time it was done. So in order to just ease his stress, he cut the field down to a Final Four: Washington, Wyoming, North Dakota State, and Wisconsin. So that was his Final Four. He chewed on that for a little bit over a month and decided to pull the trigger to go play for Kalen DeBoer in Washington.
All right, here is Lincoln Keenholz on why he did pick the University of Washington.
And then once that one offer from Washington came in, that's when all the Big Ten schools came in and started talking, and then that's where it kind of blew up from there. Kalen's done a great job with his offense because they've averaged 300-plus yards a game passing, stuff like that. When I first got there, just sitting down with him in his office and talking to him just about like small-town South Dakota stuff and moving to like the next stage, like moving to like your biggest opportunity. He had some big moves in his career, and then him just sharing his experiences with that kind of sets up a good connection between. But it was pretty cool, yeah. So they were like the first college that came and saw me throw, which was special to me.
And when you talked to him, he said that meant a lot to him, that they had come and seen him in person, and they were really the first ones in the door, and that's what he went with.
Yeah, the Big Ten schools started coming after. I mean, he had local interest ahead of time, but the first FBS interest was out from Washington, and then he said that meant a lot, just to have them come to Pierre, watch him throw. He said he was throwing his drills into a 25-mile-an-hour wind. And he said, I guess it must have went well because they gave me an offer right after. So he showed he can throw in the elements.
And he's a little different style. Jacob Knuth from Harrisburg is going to the University of Minnesota. But Keenholz is just, he's 6'3", he's got some size, and he can slip and slide and move around, and very movable, very versatile, and he can gun it too.
Yeah, the last couple of years, we've finally had two skill players choose a big level of college.
Crazy,
and
yes.
Knuth, on one hand, when he got into high school, he super focused on football. He dropped all of his other sports. While Lincoln Keenholz, he is an all-state player on 3 different sports. I mean, one of the best in the state at 3 different sports. It's interesting to see kind of how their paths differed and how they were similar, but they're both very big talents.
Because Keenholz at one time wanted to look at baseball, wanted to look at basketball, wanted to look at football.
He actually said, I envisioned myself being a college basketball player at one point. And then he switched and said, I envision myself being a baseball player at the college level. And then this last year, it's really been all football for him.
And we hope he stays healthy. And we'll talk a little bit more high school football when we come back. Pierre's already run 5 state championships in a row. Can Keenholz and company make it 6 in a row? And what's going on in the other classes of South Dakota high school football with Jandy when we come back. Welcome back to Benchwarmers, hanging out with Jason Andera, talking South Dakota high school sports. South Dakota high school football gets started in less than 6 weeks. And over the years, Jandy, there's been some dynasties really in South Dakota high school football. O'Gorman, you can put in there. West Central, obviously, back in the day. Yankton, back in the 80s. In my day, were fantastic. Winter right now has got it really going on. But where does Pierre fit in that? Pierre's won 5 championships in a row in 11 AA, and you can say all you want about there's too many classes, whatever, but they've won 5 straight.
They don't want to talk about that, but they definitely know what's going on, and they're piling them up because of just what they've done as a culture in Pierre. And they've really put some special groups together. And some of those 5 championships, I don't think they had business, talent-wise, being a champion, but others, they are head and shoulders above the rest. So I think they're definitely in the talk for one of the best dynasties we've seen at the high school level in football for sure.
And you talk about the talent, we've talked about Lincoln Keenholz. Gray Zabel is a kid that played at Pierre that is going to be at North Dakota State and probably be a star as a big lineman there, right?
Gray Zabel, and then, of course, Peyton Zabel before that. And then, they've had great quarterbacks, Garrett Stout in that mix. I mean, they've really had some top-tier talent.
All right, here's Steve Steele and Lincoln Keenholz on Pierre already at 5 in a row, and can they make it 6?
It's going to put the capital letter just on our high school experience in football. Just obviously we won 5 in a row just as a program. Me being a part of 3, so capitalizing on that, coming into my 4th year to obviously win another state championship.
It's not a major focal point for us. Every year is separate for us. We don't talk a lot about, hey, we got 5, now we're getting 6, or we had 4, we had to get 5 this year. It's always just about let's get 1. Let's get 1 and let's focus on this season because, it's fun for the program and it's fun for all the kids that were a part of the previous ones. But this year's team's just got to focus on this year's team, and that's the approach we've taken every season. Is that every team is a little bit different. Every team, some are more similar than others, but this year's team will be way different than last year's team in some respects too. So I think it really relieves a lot of that pressure. And at the end of the day, they all know that that's not how we're going to define ourselves. Is by winning or losing that game at the end of the year. Great coach too, Steve Steele.
Deflect.
Great educator.
Deflect.
And he's been so good as a head coach there.
He's been phenomenal since he's come. He did have a little bit of an elevation in that program with Jason Poppinga there, but what he has done in the last 6 seasons there has just been phenomenal. He's done it with different quarterbacks too, like I said. I mean, it hasn't been one, but this is the first chance for a 3-time starter at quarterback with Lincoln Kienholz to be a 3-time state champion under this unbelievable Pierre program.
Let's play a little game of will they repeat. Starting with Pierre, 11 AA Pierre, the state champions, beat T in the championship game last year.
Well, T is going to be right there knocking on the door again. That's a team that's not going away. I think Yankton's going to be really close as well. But Pierre, to me, is the overwhelming favorite. Kienholz, Merkwan, Jet Zabel is back, Jacob Meyer, Christian Bush, Jaden Wiebe. I mean, they are loaded with all-state talent. It's Pierre's year to win. Again,
all right, go back to 11A, Madison.
Madison, they're up and down, and they've got an unbelievable class of just talent in 11A. It's been so hard to win that class the last few seasons. It's going to be really tough for them to repeat this year, Tom.
Millbank, Del Rapids, and Vermilion were in the Final Four last year.
Yeah, I think Del Rapids is a team that's in it every single season, and they haven't quite got to the top. I think West Central's another team that's knocking on the door of that.
11B, Winter.
Winter's really good. They're really good. Riley Orrell's back. The line, they got a lot of big boys up front, and Aiden Barfus might be the next big name that you hear out of Winter these next couple of years.
Bridgewater Emory Ethan is always in there with them.
They'll be there. They'll be there, yep.
9-man, 9AA, Platte Geddes was the state champion last year.
Yeah, I think they're obviously had a great run under Grayson Hansen. Without him there now, it changes a little bit. They definitely have talent, but I think a team like Parkston has really come on strong in the last couple of years. They got a shot to maybe take it up, ratchet it up a notch. There's a couple other teams I would not count out, Canastota Freeman being one of them too.
9A, Howard, defending state champ.
Yeah, Howard has a great class of athletes too. They're going to lose a couple guys like Jay Syfor, which really help a team out in Ty Buyer. But a lot of talent coming up there. I think Wall is maybe your surprise team in high school football this year in Class 9A.
And 9B, Del St. Mary's, defending state champ.
What a thriller at last year's championship game. They finally get it done. They got some great players coming back too. Gaspar's coming back. He was an all-state athlete mentioned last year. I think they'll be right in it, but there's also some changes in classifications. I'm going to have to look and take a deeper look at 9B. I think there's going to be some new contenders this year.
And then big schools, Harrisburg beat Brandon Valley in the championship.
You know, I'm not one of these guys who says, oh, they won it, they're number one until somebody knocks them off. I've already knocked off Harrisburg. I mean, they had quite a team last year. I love what they have back, though, with Gavin Ross running the football, Tim Bishop, one of the best defensive backs in the state. I think they're going to be solid, just not as solid as they were last year.
All right, we'll continue that thought here in a moment. When we come back, we'll have Jandy's way too early top 5 in the big schools, 11 AAA football in South Dakota.
Benchwarmers on Midco Sports, presented by Andera Orthopedics.
Welcome back to Benchwarmers. South Dakota High School sports, the topic this week with Jason Andera, and it's going to be football time in about a month and a half in South Dakota. And Jandy's already out with his way too early top 5 in the big schools, 11 AAA in South Dakota. Harrisburg, the defending champions. Brandon Valley, the runner-up. Lincoln was in that Final Four last year, along with Sioux Falls O'Gorman. So lay it out, my man.
Well, here, let's just be upfront about this. I reserve the right to change this. I do a lot of research. I make this way too early top 5 right after the season, and then I got to go talk to all these coaches and get any changes or any filters. But here's what I've got coming up before preseason actually starts. I think, should I start with number 1?
Start with number 5.
I'll start with number 5. I got Harrisburg down to number 5, and there's going to be a lot of Tigers who are not happy with that. They have the most depth of anybody in the class, and we just talked about Gavin Ross, but when you lose the talent at quarterback and receiver and the line, the underrated part is that offensive line lost basically 5 starters, really good college players. So I think they're going to be right at that top 5 level most of the season, but not quite into the top 4.
They've shown ability to reload, though. Harrisburg's been really good for 3-4 years now.
Yeah.
So. But they're at 5, okay?
I got them 4? At 5. I've got O'Gorman at number 4. I think they may have the most talented quarterback, just passing quarterback, even though he's a great athlete in all aspects, in Bennett Dannenbring. He showed a lot of talent last year, and when you put the way he throws the ball with a coach like Jason Poppinga in his second year, that's when things start to explode. And then Ryland Satter, just an explosive receiver for them. Their question is going to be the same as it is every year. Do I have enough depth in the lines to compete all season long?
Harrisburg 5, O'Gorman, 4. Who's number 3?
I got Lincoln at number 3, and I think Lincoln could be one of those teams that vaults even higher than this. I really like the makeup that they put together with Schaefer at quarterback, and Jack Smith made such a dynamic connection, receiver, quarterback. But then Gabe Gutierrez on defense. I mean, and then their line is awesome too. And then Sam Hiddenbjorgen, future UND player, is also on that defense, plays tight end as well. So ton of talent on Lincoln this year.
Is Gutierrez not a great running back too?
Oh yeah, he would
goal line guy, and even more than that. But
he could have done a lot more. But he's a primary defender that comes in and could gain 1,000 yards offensively too.
Okay, Lincoln's got a little bit going on. So that's who's number 2?
I got Jefferson at number 2. Look at all the talent they had, all juniors and sophomores pretty much last year. Talon Ashley, I said Dannenbring might be the best quarterback. Well, Ashley might be the best quarterback in this as well, and they do have the best receiver in this class, in Griffin Wilde. This guy is unreal. But when you add in London Kolb and Bo Giblin and some of the guys that they have up front that are really taking that next step, I think Jefferson takes that next step to be a Final Four team, maybe a Final 2 team.
That leaves Brandon Valley.
That leaves Brandon Valley at number 1. I think they're just the most rock-solid team from top to bottom. Best depth. They've got guys that can run the ball in Delvon Spears.
Best lineman.
The best lineman in Navarro Shunke, who was a sophomore last year and could be one of the best we've ever seen in this state as a junior.
All right, Jandy, appreciate it. Varsity Sports Live, we'll get it cranking again on Fridays this fall. We're still finalizing our schedule for live games in North and South Dakota. So
Be a lot of fun, Tom. Can't wait to see you.
All right, peek ahead to next week when we come back. Our thanks, as always, to Andera Orthopedics, and thanks this week to Jason Andera. We get into some college football next week. We'll take an early look at the Jackrabbits at South Dakota State University.